RORGY dated 25th February 2013 between the Caribbean Development Bank and the Cooperative Republic of Guyana for $34.2 million for the West Coast Environmental Improvement Force Road Project. Secondly, loan contract number 2741BL-GY dated 15th March 2013 between the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and the Inter-American Development Bank. This is $66.2 million for the road network upgrade expansion program. Thirdly, compensation agreement to the framework of the Petrochemical Energy Cooperation Agreement dated 17th May 2013 between the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and the PDVSA Petroleum SA, PDVSA. The cancellation of the oil debt compensation for the white rice and plant shipments made under the Guyana Venezuela rice trade agreement in the amount of $190,076,990.98 and fourthly, finally, several agreement GUYL0001 dated 6th July 2013 with the government of the Republic of Guyana, the CARICOM Development Fund for $7,317,996. The upgrade of all weather access paved roads to all weather paved roads will be free. We can Ruby and the upgrade of fair weather access dams to all weather roads. From Kuru to the Luni, 4 on the 1. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Reports from committees.
Honorable Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, Chairman of the Special Select Committee on Cricket Administration Bill of 2012. We may report that I see an appendix pertaining to some errata, I believe, to some typographical errors in the report. We can speak to those.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I present to the National Assembly the report of the Special Select Committee on Guyana Cricket Administration Bill 2012. Bill number 31 of 2012.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, thank you very much. As noted, there are a few typographical errors which the Parliament Office will correct and ensure that the corrected version is circulated. Honorable Member, may I also congratulate you and all the members of this committee. I know that it started out under a cloud of doubt and suspicion that it would not be able to complete its work, but I'm happy to receive this report and realize that we did, in fact, manage to put cricketing and the country first. Thank you very much.
Oral questions without notice. Questions on notice.
Members, honorable members, there are 22 questions on the order paper, and all are for written replies. Question number 1 is in the name of the honorable member. Being sought at the vote taken that 37 members voted in favor of the motion. 26 members voted against it. The motion is carried. The bill and the motion shall be proceeded with. Thank you.
Proceeded.
Can I at this stage?
Okay.
One second, President.
Members, I'm pleased that this House has taken the step it has taken and restored these most important bill and motion for our consideration. And I would like to invoke 24.3, which says, reads, government business shall consist of motions proposed to be made and bills sponsored by ministers or parliamentary secretaries and shall be set up in such order as the government deem fit. And I would like to move that we proceed directly to the AGPA and the motion on the get ceiling. And this is in accord with our on what we intended for speaker to this session of Parliament, and we can commit this sitting, sorry, of Parliament, and we can commit that we are prepared, the government is prepared to sit here onto whatever time is required to complete fully the items listed on the order paper for the city.
One second, Mr. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mr.
Very busy, Mr. Speaker. I move that the motion proposed by the Honorable Prime Minister be amended to read that the business in relation to the hydroelectric bill and motion with that ceiling we proceeded with after the items for the local government in relation to all 4 local government bills are dealt with on the order.
Thank you. Honorable Member from the Second Chair.
Mr. Speaker, the government, the leader of opposition, leader of the House, had written me last night in which we clearly stated our objectives today, and these were published in the leader of opposition, with Mr. Ramjatan Alliance for Change, the chief whip on the opposition side, Ms. Amna Ali, in which we made very clear our objectives for today on the suspension of the relevant standing orders. Mr. Speaker, 24.3 is specific in relation to the government having control over the order of the business of the House. We had an issue at a previous sitting on this same matter. On this same matter, sir. And therefore, whilst I appreciate the member wants to have some assurance, we are saying, and the matter is said in the House.
Let member speak, please. I need to hear
Mr.
it.
Speaker, no respect on the other side.
No, I need to hear the member, please. Okay, calm. We're doing well so far.
Due to the importance of this issue, we want, and under 24.3, we were in our right to have these items immediately debated, and that we move then to the other items on the agenda. No less than the leader of the House has committed that our side is prepared to work all the way through to complete today's agenda, which includes all the items.
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion that has been seconded.
That is true. I'd like to say something. Honourable members, as I said, we're going to stand in formal ceremony all day into the night and into tomorrow morning. We have just completed something that has never been done in the history of this National Assembly. That is to restore 2 very important pieces of legislation that were considered otherwise dead. My sense is that realpolitik has to take over. If there's an insistence, and the government does have a right to insist how it will present its business, that is its right. But if there's an insistence that it does so, it will, I believe, suffer from consequences that are unwanted. But it does have a right, it is its agenda. It does have that right. But I believe, and I can say this because I don't have a vote, and so I will speak freely, that if we insist on proceeding with them immediately, my sense is that what gains we just achieved within the last 5 minutes could be washed away. And so I'm going to ask that having been restored, they take their place in the queue and we go through the normal business, because as I said, we have achieved something tremendous, and the government may wish to insist on its right to proceed, but I believe that in the interest, the public's interest, which is what was relied on in the letter to me last evening, that we not insist on doing what you believe is the government should step back a bit and allow the House to consider the bills as they come up. And so this is the Speaker's plea that both sides come to some compromise and that we have some consensus, and having been restored onto the order paper, that they take their place in the queue and that we get to them later in the day's business. I believe that it's in the public interest that we do so, and that is my plea as Speaker of the House, even though government may wish to insist that it has the right to order it. 1 second, Mr. Williams, I'm still speaking. I am publicly ask the government to consider that we allow these matters, having been restored, they are now restored, but that they not be proceeded immediately because there is obviously not consensus for that. And there's no doubt that the outcome will be as it was before.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
if you will allow me, there are two things I'd like to propose. One is that you allow a suspension to allow the government side to consult amongst itself. Secondly, you're going to deny that? Secondly, sir, that I would like to ask the opposition members to, just like they wish an assurance that the issues they have interest in are covered tonight, that we have assurance, were we to go with the proposal by them, that our items will be done. Thirdly, for the notice of the House, the two chief whips, as you had said, sat down and worked out the order in which the hydroelectric bill and the debt ceiling bill motion were number 1 and number 2 on the order for today. And you have a copy, sir, of the list of speakers. So,
I was not aware that my apologies.
Mr. Speaker, if the opposition is thinking as they're running, we are asking for suspension so we can now discuss amongst ourselves.
Honorable members, it is 10 minutes to 4. Mr. Williams, Mr. 1 minute, Mr. Williams has been good enough to pass to me a 100-page document, which I was going to ask your leave to consider, because it raises serious matters as to whether or not the issues we're about to proceed with are in fact sub judice and are prevented by standing orders. So, in any event, I was going to ask you of the House to give me some time. I've already asked for some research to be done. And so, I would be minded to grant the request for government side to consult at the caucus. And I believe it's a good occasion for members of the opposition to caucus as well, and at some time to caucus with the government on how we proceed tonight. Also, Deputy Speaker, then Mr. Ali.
Thank you very much, sir. So I just want to remind the House, sir, most respectfully, that we, in the recent past, it has been decided and agreed on that by suspending the relevant standing orders, I don't want to get into that now, that we have the authority, the majority has the authority to read the National Assembly to reorder the sequence. So even if they're insisting on the hydro, it is not because they insist. We can suspend, we can have a motion, and we will suspend the order of business so that number 2 becomes number 7 or number 9 becomes number 6, whatever. So as the government caucuses, I just wanted to place that before the ongoing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to make some clarification to the statements that the government chief has made. You will agree that every time we have a sitting of the National Assembly, the chief whips meet and discuss the speakers for the various matters listed for debate. That was exactly what we did today. We had no discussion of priority and the likes. We discussed speakers that will contribute to each of the bills listed.
Honourable members, I thank you. We will, as it is already 5 minutes before, Honourable Member and Minister of Public Works, you wish to enter into this?
No, I just to state, Mr. Speaker, I already said that there was service of a motion with respect to this matter, an action in the court. I want to state clearly here that I was never served. I was not served with any motion.
I can assure you that we won't stop this matter from proceeding. Sir, this matter will proceed very it's actually an appeal. So parties, interested parties should have been, or affected parties should. So it does not stop the appeal from going ahead if you are served or not. So honourable members, we will take our statutory suspension for 1 hour. And I hope that it will be very, very fruitful and productive for you. Enjoy your...
Not a break yet.
government ministers complaining all the time how we changed the sequence and brought in the bills to be number one on the agenda. So that if they're insistent, then it has to go to the vote. And we once the AFC joins with us, we will vote against that sequence. So it must come after the local government bills are debated. So, and in addition to that, I've introduced another issue where under 26G, standard order 26G, once a matter is pending in court, then you cannot debate or proceed with it if it's the same subject matter in the parliament. So that's another issue that is happening. Not to put it on the paper. We're confident that they're not going to allow it to be the first item to be debated on this agenda.
But remember, the government does give its indication that they're willing to go through the monitoring, through all the...
No, we don't mind, but we don't mind what they said. It has to come after the local government.
Why do you insist that?
Because the local government bills are there, they have agreed to bring them to the parliament, and now they try to hold it hostage. These are the arrangements. And it's unprecedented. I mean, we allow them to bring these bills back. You know? So why would you want them now to take precedence when you already have a sequence of the day? Well, the president has shown the world that he's ready for local government reform and local government elections. So that would be a matter for him. And the, as you know, our stakeholders, including the ABC countries, are firmly of the view that the time is right for local government reform and local government law. All right?
At the time of the suspension, the government's chief had asked for time to allow her time to caucus, and I had asked an opportunity to be able to do some research on a point that was raised preliminarily by Mr. Williams, which I believe he will raise substantially later on. And I've had a chance to do so, and I thought that the government had also had a chance to hold its comments. So we were at that point in time where we were to proceed with the business on the order paper or not, and the government, I believe, can now report what its thoughts are. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the government is prepared to proceed with the more or less in accord with the order paper, and in particular to go to the telecoms bill and the amendments to the PUC bill, and then the local government, the 4 bills that deal with local government elections, and then we would like to proceed to the bill and the motion for
Very good. Thank you. I believe, Prime Minister, that history will show that I think that is a wise course of action. Mr. Clark, please proceed with your
Introduction of bills, public business, government's business.
Honourable members, we will now proceed with the second reading of the Telecommunications Bill, number 18, 2012, published on the 9th of August, 2012. Honourable members, and Honourable Prime Minister, rather, Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, I invite you to proceed.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the government has stated that it would like to proceed. In the past, maybe over the past year, the government has been indicating that it would like to proceed at the earliest time with the telecoms law, the new telecoms law that is aimed to create an open, liberalized, non-discriminatory telecom sector in Guyana. And as we have reported, we have been in discussions with GT&T and with Digicel, and we have made quite a bit of progress. we have not yet so far reached agreement with GT&T in the sense of an explicit agreement between us two. But we have been speaking with each other, and we took a position that we would make such amendments as we thought fit as a result of our discussions and negotiations with them, and that we would proceed. And following that, we did write to AT&T, GT&T, saying, informing them that this is the direction on which we are proceeding. And we did bring to Parliament amendments which are reflective of the positions we have accepted coming out of our discussions, both with GT&T and to a lesser extent, a lesser number of discussion sessions with Digicel. And that was the position that we were holding to. We have today received a letter from ATN in which it says, and I will quote, that your letter provides a substantive and procedural framework upon which further engagement will be productive before final legislation is introduced. We have had this position supported also by the, as I guess is his duty, by the ambassador from the USA. And the government has therefore taken the position that we would like to defer this telecommunications bill and the consequential amendments to the PUC bill. We would like to defer these once more with a clear understanding that at the end of the recess, between now and the end of the recess, we would conclude any further discussions, negotiations, and will proceed as soon as this House resumes in October. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that this matter, which the Prime Minister has brought to us several times, it's delayed and we deferred at least 4 times already. I beg that we refer to a select committee. I've listened to what the Prime Minister has to say, and I'd like to make a couple of observations before in support of this motion. The bill before us is a long and complex bill. It belongs to, I think, 96 pages.
What time? What are you reading on? There's time on the deal with first and second readings of bills when they can send to, and you can guide this to the car, when they can send to the first or second. Yeah, but in one instance by the House and in the other by the Minister. So where are we now? That's what I'm trying to do. 1 second. Let's try to ascertain where we are procedurally wise.
It's back. It's back. It's back. Yeah, back.
Advises that the bill has not been read a second time. And therefore, the minister may refer it, but it is not at the stage as yet where the House may refer it to the select committee. But the minister, if in his opinion wishes, that is as the clerk advises me on standing order 58.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I stand advised. I would like to take the opportunity, however, to give the Prime Minister notice in view of the complexity of this bill, in view of the fact that he has known for months that the consultation should have taken place with the private entity whose monopoly was to have been modified. And in view of the fact that, if you listen, you'll understand, my friend. In view of the fact that they are likely to finish at the end of September, it would be ideal for the bill to be taken and to go straight to a select committee that can consider all these technical details. There are a variety of dimensions, including the role of the minister, the functions of the Public Utilities Commission, and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you most kindly, members. Honorable Prime Minister, I think we can proceed to the next bill on the order.
Yes, sir. And again, as I have presented just now on the telecommunications bill, I would like to make a similar presentation with respect to the amendments to the telecommunications bill, because the amendments to the telecommunications bill are consequential to the telecommunications law. Sorry, on the PLC bill, to the piece.
Thank you very much. That stands before as well for the reasons stated. Our members, we now move to Fiscal Transfers Bill 2012, Bill number 20 of 2012, published on the 9th of August 2012. And I believe, as per our understanding, that we will proceed with the second reading of this bill. Honorable Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, I hope you found your voice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to beg that the bill entitled Fiscal Transfers Bill number 2012, Bill number 20 of 2012, standing in my name, be read for a second time. Mr. Speaker, I wish first to commend the members of the Special Select Committee which dealt with this bill. And I also wish to offer my commendation and thanks to the support staff of Parliament, as well as the staff of the AG chambers, who would have worked very closely and tirelessly with the committee in dealing with this bill. The People's Progressive Party and the People's Progressive Party Civic Government stand in support of this bill, and we recognize that this is a big step in fulfilling the requirement under Article 77A of our Constitution, which states, and I quote, Parliament by law should provide for the formulation and implementation of objective criteria for the purpose of allocation of resources to and the governing of resources by the local democratic organs. The ultimate aim of this bill, Mr. Speaker, is to enhance the autonomy of local authorities across this country and to assist in their quest to be financially viable and for them to be able to sustain their operations through various mechanisms as contained in the bill. The bill in itself seeks to point to a number of additional revenue generating areas, including vehicle parking meters, economic ventures, economic partnership with central government and other organizations. The bill seeks to introduce a formula with established criteria as is required by the Constitution to allow for governmental support via Parliament to the 65 NDCs and 6 municipalities. While the formula seemed to be similar for 70 of the local authority areas, Georgetown is treated somewhat different, and that is explained in the bill. Mr. Speaker, I wish to encourage all members of this honorable House to give their support to the second reading of this bill. Thank you.
Very good. Other members of the civilian here of the legislature.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I told you some time ago that you were sitting on history, if you recall. And it appears that by the very nature of this Parliament, at each sitting of the Parliament, it seemed that history could be made. The fact, Mr. Speaker, that these bills are consensually before this honorable House must be a signal moment in history of an independent year. It is an illustration of what we can accomplish when we cooperate and work together in the interest of the Guyanese people. It is the first time, Mr. Speaker, that a special select committee on government bills to be presented by a minister has successfully been chaired by a member of the opposition anywhere in the Commonwealth Caribbean.
I will make sure that it is noted in the answer.
Yes. Amidst the turbulence, the cut and thrust of partisan politics, the success of the Special Select Committee on these local government bills shines like a beacon. And I wish to congratulate all the members of the Special Select Committee achieving this signal success in this Parliament. But more particularly, sir, when you would have heard the naysayers, the soothsayers, give this committee little chance of succeeding, and when you had members, honorable members, Meet Kumar, Bibi Shadiq, Geert Teixeira, and the minister, formidable fighters. I was told that they are called the demolition gap. If you want nothing to succeed, put them in. But Mr. Speaker, I wish to put on this record that that was a misdescription of those 400 rebel members of this honorable House. Because they contributed significantly, sir, to the work of this committee. I mean, it was hard bargaining. And I mean, I was heckled a lot of times by the honorable member Meet Kumar that Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, you don't know what you're doing and stuff. But you know, at the end of the day, we were able to complete the work on those 4 bills, and here we are. Mr. Speaker, look what democracy is, and I gave whose time is up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to join in congratulating members of the Special Select Committee who were able to, over time, to achieve consensus on the many measures that needed to be put in place, legislative that is, so that revenue garnered by local democratic organs can be based on some objective criteria. It is a major achievement, and it's pointed out by both speakers before me. It brings us in line with the requirement of Article 77A of the Constitution, providing an objective criteria for allocation of resources and the garnering of resources by local democratic organs. Local democratic organs have depended primarily on revenue coming from in the form of rates and taxes, market revenue, investment income, subvention grants. These by themselves have proven not to be adequate enough. High employment and operational costs and progressively increasing costs of delivering services within the boundaries of the NDCs and the municipalities have amounted to some dissatisfaction among residents with respect not only to the extent of services that these local government organs deliver, but in many instances the quality of the services rendered. Even the annual subvention that is welcomed by NDCs and which is given by government to execute new projects, capital projects, we know is inadequate to meet the needs of the residents within these areas. It is in this context, Mr. Speaker, that the Fiscal Transfers Bill, adoption of other revenue resourcing measures is to be welcomed, including among these being the negotiating with central government for specific revenue sharing contract. I'm aware that that is already happening in many regions, but now it is on in the legislation. And embarking on other revenue earning projects is welcome. So also is efforts to arrive at an objective formula for fiscal transfers that takes into account a number of variables, including landmass, including population size, and very importantly, including the ability of the local government organs to rake in revenue, government's responsibility, okay, in terms of assisting the local government organs. The measures which I have just outlined and which are captured in this important piece of legislation, the Fiscal Transfers Bill, have certain inherent and important principles which allow us for resource allocation, use, and monitoring in a very objective and equitable manner. And with this and all the other good reasons advanced by the two speakers before me, that I do join in supporting Fiscal Transfers Bill 2020.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I invite the AFC to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members of this Honourable House. First, I want to thank the members of the Select Committee and most importantly, the chairperson, Mr. Basil Williams, to do a wonderful job, because there was so much of crosstalk even in the select committee that I thought we would get nowhere. And one of the most important individuals that I want to compliment in this honorable house is Mr. Ronald Vulcan for his contribution on the opposition side. He took this select committee work as a responsibility for our Guyanese, and he did a wonderful job. Apart from the contribution that was made by Mr. Alexander and Mr. Chandrapal and the CPC, the inputs of all these people, today I can stand here in support after 19 years that we had not given the opportunity for a local government elected. But I see the petition today that this House, with this bill, that we can give the youths of this country, the Democratic Council of each NDC, an opportunity to look after their own welfare. The previous speakers have indicated the importance of this bill. And I also, as an AFC member, in great support that today we can take some of the power out from the minister and give it to each democratic neighborhood, that they can look after their own welfare and run it more efficiently than to take orders from the minister from this level. Though we have crosstalks and so many ups and downs in the committee meeting, at last we became very rational and judgmental to know that it is due time for the people of Guyana that the local government election will test the water that we so badly needed today in this country. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Basil William, Governor Basil William, stood up and worked assiduously to ensure that whatever we stand for at that time, that it materialized today in this country, and a local government election should not delay anymore, but to take place to bring independence to each democratic neighborhood. And I am in great support of this bill, and I do hope that this honorable House will cherish what we have accomplished together with the government and the opposition, that very soon, after I send this bill, that we can have local government elections in this country, which is highly due, and we can get rid of the IMC for all good of this nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, Mr. John.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, permit me to express my profound thanks to all the members of this honorable House who have spoken on this bill. Mr. Speaker, because I recognize that we have 4 bills this afternoon, I would have stuck to dealing with each bill one at a time. And I avoided the generality. And so I will stick to that mode, because I believe that there are 4 different bills and one shoe cannot fit all. And so there are different statements that will have to be made. There are different realities surrounding each of these bills. And as we discussed and deliberated them, I want to ensure that my comments are relevant and appropriate.